Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here. TGI Sports Talk, Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. How's everybody doing? Big weekend in sports. Firings. Teams can't win no matter what country they're in. We'll talk a lot about that. And we'll have my co-host, Hall of Fame boxing writer, Jack Hirsch, weigh in on all of it, along with myself. Well, good morning, Jack. How are you?
You know, you never add in, Keith, in the introduction. You always say Hall of Fame boxing, right? And we don't talk much boxing, but you never add in a mediocre football handicapper.
I'm trying to give you a break.
Yeah, well, if I don't deserve it, I shouldn't get it.
Yeah, listen, I don't know. I had a good day yesterday. 11 wins I had yesterday. That's so I can get to 13 this week. That's
right. Now, we should start off each show maybe saying this. There are no moral victories in the NFL. We should always say it the morning after the slate of games on Sunday. There are no moral victories in the NFL. I don't want to hear about a team that lost, about them playing well. Not that you can't mention it per se, but let's not get carried away. Because if we can see things, Keith, the way I'm going to do in this show, where the worst teams in the NFL could actually have at least a 500 record, and the best teams could have the same.
Do you want to? That's what you want? Is parity in this league? 100% parity?
No, I mean, we have ultimately the worst teams win a game here and there. They spring an upset, or they have a good 3 or 4 game stretch, and we get all excited about the team, or individual players do it. Like I asked you before the show, for some reason I wasn't thinking. I said, Keith, who's the primary Patriot backup quarterback? You said Joshua Dobbs, but maybe Tommy DeVito. But Joshua Dobbs even had that streak of a couple of good games. He goes to the Vikings.
Yeah.
What was it, his 10th team or something? And people are getting excited. Oh, Joshua Dobbs, he's the big story in the NFL. We heard it for a week or two.
Well, if he has to play more in a week or two, that's bad. So, as I say, if you get anybody has to play their backup quarterback in this league more than a couple games is in a lot of trouble. But we'll talk more about that.
What is the big story in the NFL?
The big story in the NFL, and it kind of alludes to what you just talked about, is your team ever going to win a game? The Jets go to London and they look as bad as they look, or probably worse. How do you get to 11 points, for crying out loud? The Jets they're in the game. They lose 13-11 to the Broncos, but Fields threw for about 45 yards in this game. I don't know if that. And the play calling was bad. The Wilson is getting into coach's face at halftime. What is going on here, Jack? Is this team going to win a game?
Oh, no. The Jets aren't as terrible as made out to be. They're really not. They are going to win a few games before the season's over, but big deal. They're not making any inroads towards being a team that somewhere down the line can be a serious playoff contender to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, they're nowhere near that. I shouldn't even mention the word playoffs when it comes to them, because I thought maybe during Aaron Glenn's tenure, maybe they'll make the playoffs one year, get blown out in the first game, and then resort to being a sub-500 team. But, it's a problem for Woody Johnson, the Jet owner. He's really laid low during this process. He doesn't want to be considered as meddling, but the talk was the Jets were going to London to play the Denver Broncos. The scene of the crime where Woody Johnson, who was an ambassador in England, an ambassador under the past Trump administration.
Does that matter? You bring that up a lot. Does that matter?
Well, no, it mattered to him because he doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of his people in England. He fired Robert Salah when Salah was 2-3 after they lost to the Vikings in England. And the thought was he was going to fire Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator. The only problem is the defense showed up yesterday. They actually played well. You can't fire Steve Wilkes after this game. It was a strong defensive unit. Right. It was a mess on the offensive side of the ball. Aaron Glenn's coaching left a lot to be desired. Now, I'm not for firing Aaron Glenn. Don't get me wrong, they're 0-6. Let him finish out the season, maybe even come back with him next year. because we've had cases in the NFL. I don't have to tell you, Bill Parcells had a terrible first year as coach of the Giants. Jimmy Johnson had a terrible first year, when he was with the Cowboys. Dan Campbell had a terrible first year as Lion coach. But look at the way they rebounded. It's okay to try to let Aaron Glenn, grow on the job unless you get a high-profile candidate like a Mike Grable that's available. And if you don't sign him at that instance, you won't have a second chance. That's the only exception. But Keith, it was brutal to watch yesterday between clock management, play selection, Justin Fields under constant pressure, but still holding the ball too long. Justin Fields has good legs. It wasn't like he was even trying to run with the darn ball. He was like a damn headlights in the pocket. And even with that, they had a chance to actually win the game. They could have tried a 61-yard field goal at the end of the game for Nick Folk. I don't blame them for not. They know Folk's range.
Oh, he doesn't have range.
I had 57, 58 yards max.
Yeah.
So they needed a few more yards. And if Garrett Wilson had caught a very difficult pass at the end, they would have been actually in field goal range to attempt a long field goal at the end. And they moved to Tampa Bay at the end of the game when a stop could have won the game. Winnable game. They lose to the Steelers on a field goal at the end of the game. As crazy as the NFL is, that could be 3-3 now if they pull those games out. And as bad as Fields was, we'd have a different narrative the way we would be talking about things. But the reality is, Keith, they're 0-6.
Wouldn't they be at the worst 3-3 team in football? If that were the case, they'd be the worst 3-3 team in football. Who
would care at that point?
Oh, again, you are what your record says you are, as Bill Parcells always said. But this is boring. Here's the thing I always say about my teams anyway. It's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be bad and boring. This team is bad and it's boring. And you can't get 130 yards of offense. Rick talks about the wrong hire. I've talked a couple times about the Jets continue to hire defensive-minded coaches. I can't remember the last offensive-minded coach they had. That was Bruce Coslett, probably 30 years ago, at least 30 years ago. And this team is offensively challenged, and you knew you were going to have a quarterback that was probably a stopgap or somebody you had to rebuild, like a Justin Fields. Don't you think, in hindsight, and again, they're not going to fire Aaron Glenn, I agree, wouldn't you rather have gone with an offensive-minded guy at the head slot?
I'm not second-guessing this. Did Rick say anything before the season that this was a poor hire? Did he say it to you?
I'm not going to speak for Rick. I'm speaking for me. I said the same exact thing. Why are they
not? It was a poor hire before the season. But who else were they going to hire? All these offensive gurus, a lot of times they don't develop quarterbacks. I mean, and sometimes they're given credit, but then sometimes the wheels fall off certain quarterbacks. It depends the situation that they're in.
All right.
But yesterday the defense showed up, but the defense hasn't been good a number of other games under Glenn, and that's his department.
But I think the defense will be fine. This offense is not getting better tomorrow, and they don't. And the thing is, it's not just the fact that they don't hire an offensive guy. They hired a rookie head coach with a defensive background, and they also have a rookie offensive coordinator, a first-time offensive coordinator. He should have brought in at least a veteran guy to help there. I go back in time, and I think of guys in the similar position to Aaron Glenn. They'd bring in a veteran guy to run that offense because they don't have that. They don't necessarily have that same knowledge base that they have on defense. So I think there's been a plethora of mistakes here. I think there's talent on this team. I really do. And you being a Jet fan would know better than me seeing it every day. But I think there's talent here.
There's a lot of talent. And injuries happen all over the NFL. But sometimes one particular injury hurts a team a lot more than, others. And losing Javier Tucker for the year, he was the anchor of that offensive line. You knew that was going to hurt, but yesterday was bad. But you have to consider this. Justin Fields was Aaron Glenn's guy. And if Aaron Glenn succeeds, if Justin Fields succeeds, Aaron Glenn deserves all the credit in the world. If he doesn't, he deserves the blame. And the problem is Justin Fields is a tweener. He's not good enough to be a franchise quarterback, but at the same time, he's too good to be a normal backup. He's something in between. He reminds me of a basketball player, Keith, who doesn't have a position. He doesn't handle the ball well enough to be a guard, but he's not quite good enough to be a power forward. So you don't know where to play him. You're moving him around different ways.
Yeah.
And if you have to run a whole offense to hide Justin Fields' weaknesses, build a whole offense around his weaknesses to avoid that, you've got problems. But they didn't try to do that yesterday. They tried to make a pocket passer the whole darn game. He wasn't even trying to run when the pass rush was coming after him.
Good teams can get away with something like you're talking about, disguising the weaknesses of a quarterback. Bad teams or even mediocre teams can't, and that's what you're saying. Carlos, I don't know where the offensive coordinator came from. Brian can probably speak if he came from the Lions. I don't think he did. I know he wasn't the quarterback coach because Mark Brunell's a quarterback coach, and he's not the offensive coordinator here. So I don't know who it is. Rick did say the same thing before the season started, so we'll give him that.
Okay, if you said that before, the Jets have no momentum now. They have no wins. That's more fun. No momentum, no. The Jets are going to win some games before the year's over. The Jets have 11 more games. They're going to win a few games before the year's over. They're going to show improvement. But the bottom line is they're nowhere near trending towards being a team that can challenge for Super Bowl in the coming years. That's my concern. Okay. No fan wants a team where their ceiling is going to be 9-8, 10-7, get blown out in the first game of the playoffs, and then regress right after that. That's not the ultimate.
What do they do? Because if Justin Fields isn't the answer, and today he doesn't look like it, I've been a Justin Fields backer through the years, and I don't know whether it's him, the offense they're running, a combination of it, but he looks as bad as he's ever looked in his career. They're not going to play Tyrod Taylor, and they might play him now, but
no. Tyrod
Taylor. And what do you do? Because there's not a great quarterback class coming out of this draft. You're not going to draft a quarterback number one. If you do, you're making a huge mistake. And I don't know about a veteran quarterback that would come here or one that's going to be available. Is this going to be a long-term thing for the Jets?
No. What happens in this league? The backups get to constantly audition, and you take a flyer on them, and some of them could revive their career. Case in point, Carson Wentz at Minnesota. If he plays really well the rest of the year, the Vikings are still going to go with J.J. McCarthy. I mean, but this will be it for J.J. McCarthy. They'll give him one more shot at it, and then if he gets injured, it doesn't turn out again, maybe they move on elsewhere. I could see the Jets making a move towards a Carson Wentz-type veteran, keeping Justin Fields on the team, and seeing how that pans out. I'm going to tell you, if I were the Jets, I would get on the phone to Cleveland, and I'd feel them out and say, I'm offering you a third-round draft choice for Shedeur Sanders. Cleveland wouldn't make the deal. You want to know why? Because Kevin Stefanski wouldn't be allowed to make the deal.
The owner won't. Right.
They're obviously not going to offer number one. But could you imagine the Jets offer the second-round draft choice? That's enticing to Cleveland for Shedeur Sanders. I wonder would Cleveland still make the deal, because I don't know would they be allowed to make it. But the first-round draft choice, the Jets would be insane to do that. You mean to tell me they have no core? If the Jets are picking arguably number one in the draft, you mean there's no one out there that would be a franchise quarterback? Is that what you're telling me in college?
As of this moment, I cannot think of a guy. People are going to throw Carson Beck's name out there. I'm not saying they won't be franchise quarterbacks and can develop. I wouldn't be picking them with one of the first 10 picks in a draft. None of them.
What about Mac Jones? chances are he's available at the end of the year.
Well,
He's not going to want to be a backup, and the Niners are committed to Brock Purdy.
if Mac Jones is in the right system, I think you see he can play decent, consistent football. We saw that in his rookie season. We've seen it in several games this year. But
If Mac Jones on the Jets this year, he would be a mess. He wouldn't be having the same success.
I agree.
It would be a mess on the Jets. The only type of quarterback who could have had some success with the Jets this year were the elite quarterbacks, like a Patrick Mahomes would have had some success, Josh Allen, etc. I mean, the top of the line quarterbacks would have made something out of this. Justin Fields was with the Bears for a few years, and he didn't exactly flame out. Let's remember this, Keith. The Bears would have continued with Justin Fields as their quarterback if he wasn't going to be in a contract year 1 year down the line and they weren't going first overall. But there was serious thought on the part of the Bears to stick with Justin Fields as their quarterback. He did do some good things with the Bears. He wasn't a complete flameout. It was like the jury was still out on him, whether he could be a good NFL quarterback. Then he goes to the Steelers, and some people were calling for him to be their full-time starter. Mike Tomlin obviously wasn't overly impressed, and went with Russell Wilson, and now he comes to the Jets. I mean, Justin Fields isn't as bad as made out to be. He can play, but he's just not I just don't consider him a franchise quarterback per se.
Yeah, and if you go for a Mac Jones or even, let's say, J.J. McCarthy flames out or somebody like that, you're just kind of repeating what you just did. Wash it or rinse. We're going to try to turn somebody else's garbage into, gold. And I don't know if that's the best way to go either, without offensive gurus to do it. So, I got to disagree with Danny. The Browns have not been as dismal as the Jets. The Browns were a couple of plays away from going to the AFC Championship game not that many years ago with Baker Mayfield. So they're a mess now and a dumpster fire. But
yeah, I don't know. I'm going to tell you, these so-called quarterback gurus, I mean, I'm not sure they're exactly quarterback gurus. How many of them are around? I mean, we think of Josh McDaniel, the Patriot offensive coordinator. We think of Kevin O'Connell, the Viking head coach. We call them quarterback gurus. I mean, we're thinking of Shanahan now with the 49ers. I'm not so sure about that.
There are guys who can make quarterbacks better, and there are guys who can make quarterbacks worse. There's definitely guys who can do that.
Bill Belichick showed that with Mac Jones. That was a classic case of making a quarterback worse.
Josh McDaniel was turning him into a quarterback, and Bill Belichick reversed it 180 degrees.
Any updates on Belichick with North Carolina? Is he going to coach the season? Will he be back next year by any chance? Or what? Everyone's assuming he won't be, but I think Belichick's coming back to North Carolina. I think they owe him too much money, Keith.
$25 million cost to buy him out today.
Yeah. I don't think if he quits, where does he go? He's not going to be hired by any big college program. No way. In NFL, the only way he could get back in the NFL if he was willing to become a defensive coordinator, and it would have to be under a coach he has a close relationship with, who he respects that coach greatly, and the coach respects him. Maybe I'm throwing a name at you. Maybe and they don't need him. Their defense has been great, especially yesterday they were great. Sean Payton, someone like that. Giants.
There are guys out there, right? And I'm having trouble going backwards, guys. There was a couple of comments I was going to go back to. I don't want to lose this one. Ron, good morning, Ron. Ron hasn't been with us on this show, but Ron's been on my Sunday show. Welcome, Ron. I'll get to this in a second. I didn't want to lose it. I'm having trouble going backwards. Now I can go. One thing Danny brought up, and I think this might be a topic. Now I can't get there again. Damn it. Something's wrong with my scroller. Danny brought up Belichick and Brady, and Belichick can't win and couldn't win in Cleveland, couldn't win without Brady. I don't want to get into it today, but that might be a topic for, and maybe you've done it on your debate show. That's a great debate show topic. But you and I talked about doing a couple of shows, and put them in the can to play while I'm on vacation in November. And that might be a topic.
Yeah, that would be good.
And maybe do that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That would be great.
Because I got a lot to say on that topic.
Old school stuff.
Yeah. And Danny says, don't go soft. I think he's talking about my one-year wonder and Mac Jones. I'm not going soft. I'm just telling you how it is. I'm not telling you Mac Jones would have been Tom Brady. I'm telling you Mac Jones was a good quarterback under Josh McDaniel. And when he left and they put two defensive guys in charge of him, he stunk. And they ruined it. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not going soft. They ruined him. And I'm getting on my guy, Bill Belichick, for doing that. So,
Keith, there's a lesson to be learned by yours truly also when it comes to these quarterbacks. I was high on Mac Jones coming out of Alabama.
You were?
I thought he could really go with the Patriots, and he validated my opinion in his rookie year.
Yeah.
And then the wheels fell completely off. And it showed you sometimes what coaching and play calling is going to do. And it got to the point where his confidence was shot, and he needed to reset as a backup. And I think the year he was at Jacksonville, as a backup to Trevor Lawrence, did him a lot of good. He's going to the 49ers, and Mac Jones has to know in all likelihood he's not going to be the 49er quarterback in the future for the simple reason they gave Brock Purdy a big contract. And when you invest so much in a guy, you can't just move on from him and lose that money. And Brock Purdy's still good. Still good, and I think he's better than Mac Jones, in my opinion. But Mac Jones is going to get an opportunity to compete for starting jobs somewhere next season. Look, even Daniel Jones revived his career. He had his reset at Minnesota. And Kevin O'Connell liked Daniel Jones a lot for the simple reason Daniel Jones beat him in a playoff game. So he saw Daniel Jones at his best. But he was committed to J.J. McCarthy, which is a good question, Keith. Should coaches be committed to someone at all because they have a big contract and they were drafted so high? No. Or should they just say, the heck with it? I don't care if you're getting $50 million a year. If I can't trade you, you're going to be my primary backup.
The best guy should play. I mean, there is a precedent. Tom Brady was not the starting quarterback because Drew Bledsoe only because Drew Bledsoe was just made the highest paid player in football when Brady was the best player in camp. Fortunately for the Patriots and fans, and unfortunately for Drew, he gets almost killed by Mo Lewis, and history is what it is. But Brady was the better quarterback, and that would have been a huge mistake to go through that season with Drew Bledsoe. But they do it, coach, and you're right. Coaches, teams feel they got to play the guy because they paid him. They can play the guy that wins the games. That's what you should play.
No, you're not. You know what it is, Keith? If you're the coach and you strongly recommend to the owner to pay the guy, and then you're not playing him, then it becomes a problem. Then you have to validate what you did. That's why these high draft choices, you stay with them so long because you kind of want to validate it, or their stock goes up. Take the case of Trey Lance. If Trey Lance was a 7th-round draft pick or an undrafted player, he wouldn't be in the league. But because he was drafted so high, there's a certain value.
Right. There was a Mac Jones that did play for the Expos like 40 years ago. That's a good one, Ron. He's probably better thought of than our Mac Jones here. Matt Patricia, Rick Sherlock talks about Matt Patricia, who I was referring to. It's not Matt Patricia's fault that Mac Jones failed. It's Bill Belichick's fault for putting Matt Patricia in a situation to fail. And that's what he did. And Matt Patricia's doing what he does best, coach defense. That's what he does best. So now he's got a place to do it.
Yeah, Ohio State, very impressive in their defense of the national championship. I got to give him credit.
Couple things that I'll start with, because Ron brought up the Colts. So let's just do a little thing, real or not real. And I'll start with the Colts. Colts are 5-1, playing good football. The Cards battled yesterday without their running back, without Murray. Are the Colts for real? Are they title contenders? The Colts.
Yes, because I think the AFC is more wide open. The Chiefs, despite an impressive win yesterday, they're not quite the same team, they were before at 3-3. By the end of the season, they might be the Kansas City Chiefs of old, and then they might regain their favoritism to a degree. The Buffalo Bills, they don't have super players at high impact positions. That's what concerns me about them. I don't consider James Cook an elite running back per se. He's very good, don't get me wrong, very good, but not one of the best backs in the NFL. A receiver like Keon Coleman, I don't consider him an elite receiver. And Josh Allen is obviously a great quarterback, so the Bills could be had. The Ravens, wow, the team I picked to win the Super Bowl, they're 1-5, so I don't even have to comment on them. The Chargers, we see the cracks in their armor. They came close to losing their third game in a row yesterday. Yes, the Colts are for real. They are a valid contender at this point.
You brought two of the other teams one of the other teams I was going to mention was Kansas City. Are they, because they got Rashid Rice coming back next week, I believe next week. That offense is already starting to get it together with Worthy healthy. This team is still a title contender. Yes? Real or not real?
Chiefs is still, yeah. Chiefs a title contender, and they'll be in the playoffs. And if you look at that division, Denver's struggling. They just managed to eke out a win yesterday. Denver's not putting in fear into anyone, but the last 2 weeks beating the Eagles and eking out the win with the Jets. The Broncos look like a playoff team. The Chargers look like a playoff team. The Chiefs look like a playoff team. 3 teams in that division, and the Raiders, obviously are going to be the odd team out.
Are the Patriots real or not real? 4-2, 6. Let me throw this out there before you answer. In 6 of their next 7 games, they're going to be favored to win the game, except for at the Buccaneers is the only place I can see. They're all winnable games. This team could theoretically be, after that stretch, 10-3.
Wait, they play the Jets next week.
No, they play the Titans next week. They don't play the Titans until the 13th of November.
Sorry, right.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat the Titans and they'll go to 5-2.
They're gonna be fine.
How can you say no? I was down on the Patriots in the beginning of the year. You were right. I was wrong. I thought it was going to be a struggle all year long, and I thought Vrabel was good enough coach that by next year they would be a playoff team, but it would be kind of forming the team into the nucleus he wanted this year, and there'd be a lot of bumps in the road before he got there, and he'd need a year to do it. And like the excellent coaches you get it done a lot of times in the first year. And it shows you the difference coaching makes. Look, if Vrabel was the Jet coach and Aaron Glenn was the Patriot coach, I could guarantee you there would be a difference involved. Maybe the Jets wouldn't be as good as the Patriots. You're not going to tell me they wouldn't be at least 2-4, have won a couple of games. And that's maybe unfair to Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn might turn out to be a good coach when all is said and done. I'm not giving up on him, but coaching does make an immediate impact in a lot of cases, and Vrabel's proving it. Yeah, the answer is yes. I don't consider the Patriots a serious Super Bowl contender, not at all. But are they a serious threat to make the playoffs as a wild card, behind Buffalo in the AFC East? The answer has to be yes.
This team will be in first place in the AFC East if Buffalo loses tonight, by the way, just as FYI. So, listen, I look at the schedule going forward because a couple of the games don't look as tough as they looked. This team can win 12 games.
I say it would be the weakest 12 team.
Well, that's fair. You threw that
in NFL history if they did that. Buffalo plays at Atlanta tonight. Buffalo should win the game, you'd think, because they're a better team. But look, if Atlanta beats them at home, you got to start wondering, is Buffalo really that good? Or is Buffalo just one of a few teams that could go to the Super Bowl? In other words, Buffalo would have lost the favoritism they have. At this moment, if you have to say which team is most favored to go to the Super Bowl at the AFC, I think we'd all still say the Buffalo Bills, despite them losing to the Patriots last week at this point. But if they lose tonight to the Falcons, no more favoritism for them. They're just they're just one in a pack of teams.
The Patriots do need to run the ball better than they are. I can tell you that right now. They're not running the ball well. They were fortunate yesterday. They couldn't close that game out because they couldn't run the football, and they have to be able to do that. And they do.
I like the way Stephon Diggs is. I'm not Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's playing well, but I like the way Drake May is playing. He's trying to stretch the field. He's becoming a playmaker. And that's the difference between elite quarterbacks in this league and game managers. Drake May shows all the potential to be a really good playmaker.
He does, and here's the difference too. He was making plays last year, but he wasn't making his plays down the field because when he would start to move around the pocket or look to run, he wasn't looking down the field anymore. His eyes were down, even early. Yeah. Now he's looking to make a play, not just with his feet, but when he's moving, he's looking to throw the ball, and he does that very, very well. He made some stuff out of nothing yesterday. He made some tremendous throws yesterday.
And know that the best quarterbacks are the ones that extend plays. You extend plays, receivers get open.
Yeah.
If you don't extend plays, they don't have a chance to get open.
Agreed. They're a couple plays away. Carlos said that a couple of comments ago. They're probably a couple players away from being real contenders, but they're getting better faster than I thought they would. Especially since they've lost 2 games this year, I thought they'd win. So let me move on to somebody else. The Bucks. I know you love the Bucks. I know you have the Bucks as your Super Bowl.
I still do, and it showed yesterday why.
You know, yesterday was the first time they got in victory formation. They're 5-1. They haven't been in victory formation before yesterday. So that tells you, I like the way the Bucks play. They're not out of games. Baker Mayfield is the comeback king this year, and I like the way the Bucks play football. They play through injuries as well. This team hasn't even been healthy.
I'm going to throw this at you, Keith. The question: you probably need time to think about it, but I'll put you in the spot. A quick answer: who's the most underrated coach in the NFL? Underrated. Meaning he doesn't get the props he really deserves. It's certain guys. You can't mention the elite coaches who get their props all the time.
I know where you're going, and I think I agree. I've been very hard on this guy through his career. Todd Bowles has done a great job. He's done a great job. Can't say anything about Todd Bowles.
Former Jet coach, and maybe there's a lesson to be learned that look at Todd Bowles now, and he was a Jet coach. It didn't quite work out. And I remember there was this one coach, he coached at Hofstra, and he was in the NFL. Remember Joe Garden? Okay? Yeah. Yeah. He said once, I went to this seminar and I heard him talk, and he said, any coach, if he stays in a job long enough, eventually things are going to turn around. Eventually they turn around. And let's say the Jets never moved on from Todd Bowles. They treated him like Mike Tomlin, and they ignored the outside pressure to fire him. They're not winning. Eventually, they would have probably turned it around to a degree.
In the same division, this team looked horrendous. We talked about them before the show a little bit, and we'll give Sonia a little shout out here. Panthers looked as bad as the team has looked all year against the Patriots. Last 2 weeks they've looked good. They are 3-3. A playoff contender? I don't think so, but.
Who are we talking about?
Panthers.
Panthers. Oh, okay. I thought the Bucks were saying. No. Panthers are in a serious Super Bowl.
I can see 8 wins.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Panthers only need to improve, and at 3-3, their fan base has to be very happy. Look, if the Panthers go 8-9 on the season,
isn't that a moral victory, though? We talk about this term a lot. Isn't just being happy improving a moral victory? No. That
it's much different. A moral victory would be if you're the Jets, who were 5-12 last year, who have 11 games left. The Jets, and if they go 5-6, we hear, oh, they're playing much better, or whatever.
How's that?
I don't want to see them finish the year. If the Jets go 6-5 the rest of the year, let's say hypothetically, and they finish the season 6-11, I don't want to hear, oh, the Jets are on an upswing. Aaron Glenn's doing a good job. This, and I'm not for firing Aaron Glenn. I want to see him come back next year. I don't want a coach to be 1 year, one and done. I believe give all coaches a chance to grow on the job as long as the team plays hard and it's not a mess where you have to move on from him. Stick with them a second year, like in the case, like we talked about Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
Mayo, on the most circumstances, should have come back a second year, but because Mike Vrabel was available, Robert Kraft made the move.
I got a couple more. Steelers, real or not real? Contenders with Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so either. The defense is a little softer than normal.
Not real. Watching the game yesterday, they nickel and dime the Browns. You knew the Browns, you really couldn't score during the game. The Rodgers would keep getting a field goal at a time. Steelers have a great kicking game. Rodgers is not stretching the field. You know, he's a rhythm passer, a lot of short, quick passes. Rodgers is managing the game for the Steelers this season, managing the games beautifully. But he's not stretching the field at all. He has one elite receiver, DK Metcalf, who's brought his A game to the Steelers. Kudos to DK Metcalf. You know, he's like what he was at Seattle. He's continuing that with Pittsburgh. But you get to a higher level of competition, you're going to have to stretch the field. And their style of offenses under Arthur Smith, the former Falcon coach, excellent offensive coordinator, isn't quite suited to that. I don't think they're at 4-1, they've done a great job. They've overachieved the Steelers. No, I don't think they're real.
John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. Welcome, John, our favorite admin. If they go 0-17, I think they got no.
What are the chances? Wait, John, they're 0-6. What are the chances of the Jets going 0-11? They're not that terrible. They're not a disaster. They came close to winning.
It looked like a disaster yesterday.
They could have easily, record-wise, the disaster. They were competitive. If Garrett Wilson catches a ball at the end, very difficult catch, but catchable, but very difficult. And I'm not blaming Garrett Wilson, but if he caught that ball, they were in a position to at least line up for the game-winning kick. So they're not going to go 0-17. They're going to win a few games, the Jets, before the year's over.
Yeah, that's a great point. So last year the Redskins got off to a great start, and you thought you should be happy being 500.
Well, you can't be 500 unless you're the Cowboys and the Packers who played a tie game. You either be 8-9 or 9-8. But yes, certain teams, if a team is really a weak team and they're rising, you got to be happy. Like, let's say, for example, the Tennessee Titans, they have one win. Let's say the Titans win 3 games this season. And then next season, they go 8-9 and improve by 5 games. And they're trending towards being a legitimate playoff team. Yeah, you're happy with the progress. It depends on the team. That's not a moral victory. That's improvement in the season. I'm talking about a game and a moral victory. The problem, for one given game, you could call anything a moral victory. You know when it gets to be a problem, when you lose close game after close game, then there are no more moral victories.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it, okay?
And, John, they do have a couple of winning possibilities. They got the Ravens. They got the Browns. I mean, the Ravens will probably have Lamar Jackson back, but they got the Browns and the Bengals and the Panthers the next 3 weeks. I mean, they better win in the next 3 weeks, I'd say.
Oh, the Jets play the Panthers next week. It's a winnable game, a very winnable game next week.
At home.
Because you got to look at things on the surface. Bryce Young played well yesterday against the Cowboys, but the Cowboy defense is a mess. The Cowboys at this moment have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And if the Jets play the way they did yesterday on defense, Bryce Young is going to have a difficult time.
I will say this. I'll make this prediction. If they don't win a game in the next 3 weeks, they've got the Panthers, the Bengals, and the Browns. If they don't win one of those 3 games, they're not winning a game this year.
The Jets will win a few games before the year's over. The Jets are not going to be 0-17 or 1-16. They're not even going to be 2-15.
Okay.
So now I'm not beyond 3 wins. I'm not getting a little carried away. But the Jets are going to win. They'll win a few games. But How much will it matter? Every game matters. Every game matters. I agree with you, Carlos. Baker Mayfield, I think, is the MVP this year.
He doesn't get talked about enough. He's playing real good football.
But that's the point I try to make with people when I say game manager would be an accomplishment and that you see the team. No, I wouldn't see that. If they go 6-11, they're not turning anything around. I don't want to hear about it, okay? But the difference between a game manager and a quarterback that's a game changer is evident in the way Baker Mayfield plays. He's a game changer. He doesn't just manage the game. He goes out and makes plays, and that's what you need in a quarterback in the modern NFL. Unless your team is so great, like the Philadelphia Eagles were great offensive line, great receivers, but even there's certain cracks. Then now we're asking Jalen Hurts to go out and do more. And Jalen Hurts is a wonderful quarterback, wonderful. But Jalen Hurts is now in a position where you're expecting him to go out and make plays as opposed to just managing the game. Managing the game was good enough for the Eagles for a long time because they would keep getting the W's, but it was masking the weaknesses, the potential weaknesses in the long run that have shown up the last couple of games.
I was going to talk about the Eagles too, and since you brought them up, you've talked a lot about them being in trouble. I was kind of defending them a little bit, but they have been looking for a loss. They found one the last 2 weeks. I don't understand. I just have this feeling like I had 2 years ago. There's something amiss there. 2 games in a row. Barkley touches it, I think, 11 times and 14 times. And that is not a recipe for winning in Philadelphia. I don't know what's going on there, but if things don't change here soon and they don't start getting the ball to their best player, they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're not going to do anything if they do get there. So
you know what I think they need to do? I don't think you need a team meeting. If I'm the coach, and then Nick Sirianni is an excellent coach, probably pretty underrated when you look at what he's done, in Philadelphia. I would call into my office Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley. And I'd say, fellas, let's sit down. Let's go out to dinner together. Let's figure this out. What's the best way to win, fellas? Help me out. I would ask them, help me out. I don't want to make the decision because it could be a wrong decision without you guys telling me what's best. Let's all get on the same page. I'll get on the same page with you guys. Don't worry about getting on the same page with me because I don't have a page right now. Tell me what's best. And I think they would all put their heads together. Well, we could do this. We could do that. Let's try all this stuff and take it from there.
You know what happens at that team meeting? A.J. Brown raises his hand and says, get me the ball more. Devontae Smith raises his hand and says, get me the ball more. And the rest of the team says, get Barkley the ball more. That's what's going to happen.
Now they're sitting together because Barkley, I think we're better off running the ball on offense. I think they all want to win. You know what the problem is? When you get a great receiver like A.J. Brown and he has 2 catches the whole game, that doesn't do it. Even if you're winning, it kind of drives you up the wall, Keith. I mean, you should know it. Players talk all the time, even, I just want to win. But if they're sitting on the bench and not getting in and they can't really be a part of it, it's not the same. For one given game, yes. But you want to be very actively involved.
Well, the back end of the roster, those guys who know their jobs, they're happy with their lot in life and they want to win. But you're right. For the most part, they want their numbers as well. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Aaron Glenn, and I'm going to wrap up the Jet portion of this here. Aaron Glenn is not John Gonzalez's favorite coach of all time. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that. So, Rick says Dak's an MVP candidate. It's hard. They're going to have to win some games.
No, but they lost yesterday. So no, Dak was in the conversation a day ago for me. He's not in the conversation now. When you're 2-3-1, I don't care how great you're playing. He's not quite. He can't be MVP over Baker Mayfield. If the voting was taking place right now, even look, you could put Daniel. Some people talk about Daniel Jones being in the conversation. but I think the MVP of the Colt team is Jonathan Taylor right now.
I agree.
Daniel Jones a close second on Indianapolis.
I agree. And I will say that Dak's playing, definitely pretty good football, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but MVP means you've got to be winning, by the way.
You got to be winning. Not best player. There's a difference between best player and most valuable player. They don't know they don't always go hand in hand.
Yeah. Let's pivot a little bit to the Major League Baseball. We had game 1 of the ALCS start last night. We had a great pitching performance by Bryce Miller of Seattle. And I would say that Gausman didn't pitch badly either for the Blue Jays. Why these guys are not getting lengthened out past 75 pitches is beyond me, but I'm not going to get into that whole thing. Mariners, that's their recipe for winning right there. Great pitching. The bullpen was lights out, and they hit a couple home runs, and they win.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Mariners at the start of this series, but I also picked the Tigers to go to the World Series at the start of the season in the American League. And the Mariners edged them out at the deciding game, 15 innings, 3-2. I think it would be good for baseball, the Mariners finally making their first World Series. You want every franchise to get to a place they've never been to before, especially these long-standing franchises. So I'm rooting for the Mariners to get there, and I think they will beat Toronto. Even though Toronto got good pitching yesterday from Kevin Gausman, their starting pitching, I think that's their Achilles heel. They don't have good starting pitching, the Blue Jays, and I think it's going to show in this series. And I think the Mariners win it, in 6 games.
Interestingly enough, in game 2 tonight, it's going to be another really good young. And listen, I've said for a long while, I think the Mariners pitching is better than the Dodgers pitching. I'm sorry, Danny. I know it's blasphemous, but I think the Mariners pitcher is better than them overall. They get Gilbert, another good pitcher tonight, going against Savage, who pitched great against the Yankees, but this guy had 14 major league innings before last week. Interesting with your season not on the line tonight, but down 0-2 is not going to be good. They throw the kid out there again tonight.
Well, you don't have much room to err at this point in the year. You see managers make certain moves they wouldn't make during the regular season. I don't call it panic moves, but they do certain things that are out of the box, and for the most part, they don't work out. Sometimes they do. But what made the Mariner victory last night remarkable? Their plane was delayed after their 15-inning victory, getting to Toronto, flying in, short rest. Yet they got the job done over a well-rested Toronto team. Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers. Who do you like there?
Dodgers tonight is going to be Snell, and the Brewers have not announced a pitcher as far as I know yet tonight. I don't know if they're going with
a terrible sign, isn't it?
And a very bad sign. I like the Dodgers in game 1, and I like Snell. I'm surprised Snell's starting in that Ohtani tonight. I'll say that. They're going to say because Yamamoto's going in game 2, so we're not going to get Ohtani until at least game 3. I like the Dodgers in this series. I think the Brewers will give them a fight. It might go 6 games, but I think the Dodgers will win out.
I think it's clear sailing for the Dodgers the rest of the way. They beat Milwaukee in 5 games. Milwaukee's played well. So I got to believe they'll win 1 game in this series. And then I like the Dodgers to sweep the Mariners in 4 games. And Dodgers have hit their stride during the playoffs, and they're the same powerhouse team we projected them to be. They're that type of powerhouse team for the playoffs. During the season, it's like they were going through the motions in the sense of they were never threatened in the sense that you knew they were going to be in the playoffs. And now everything's come into place. Even their bullpen's been better.
Yeah, I like the match. When we get to the World Series, any of these combinations I think will be interesting because it's going to be different than what we've other than the Dodgers. It'll be a little different we've been seeing. I like the Mariners-Dodgers matchup a lot. I know a lot of people are pulling for the Brewers because they also have never won a World Series. They've been to 1 40 plus years ago.
I got a fun question I want to ask you, Keith.
Yeah.
If the Dodgers win the World Series this year, and assuming Freddie Freeman plays a couple of more years, which he would, This is his third year with the Dodgers. He played 12 years with the Braves, won a championship, great Braves player. Whose uniform does he wear going into the Hall of Fame?
Boy, that's a great question.
Reggie wore the Yankee uniform, even though he had more years, a lot more with the
I
A's.
wonder if he doesn't pull who's the guy who went in with nobody on it? Catfish.
No.
Nobody on his.
That was Musina, I think. Musina.
I still see Freddie Freeman as an Atlanta Brave. I do. They love him when he goes back there. Guys don't get cheered when they go back to their old place after leaving, and they love Freddie in Atlanta still after walking away.
Okay, like a Keith Hernandez, he played longer with the Cardinals, won championship with each team.
Yeah.
But he would go in as a Met. We know that because he works for the Mets.
Yeah.
But, yeah, interesting question.
That's a good question, though.
I hated to sidetrack you because I know you want to talk about one of your favorite coaches.
That's a good question. By the way, before we go away from that, Mariners, I thought game one was huge for the Mariners just because they used every pitcher except Miller, basically, in game 5 Friday night. And Gilbert pitched, I think, 3 innings in that game, at least 2 Friday night. So that could come into play tonight. So last thing here, Brewers swept the Dodgers in the regular season. I didn't realize that, actually. And the Dodgers don't
Brewers are not winning, Danny. Don't worry about anything. The Dodgers have it under control. Don't worry about it.
It'll be all right, Danny. We're going to switch gears to college because maybe the biggest, we talked about the NFL. I think the biggest story in sports this weekend is James Franklin. Penn State had enough after losing. They're the first team that nobody's been able to refute this. They're the first team ever to lose to be a 20-plus point favorite back-to-back weeks and lose the games. That Penn State had enough, $48 million worth of enough to say, here's your $48 million, go away, James Franklin. This is a tough one, and I've been very hard, and I'm not backing up. I'm not going soft, Danny. I promise you. He had to go. He's 1 in 10 against Ohio State and Michigan when they're in the top 10. He's 4-21 against top 10 teams. He wins 10 games every year, and if that's what you want, and no chance to win the Big Ten, no chance to win the national championship, that's great. But I don't know about firing him in the middle of the season here. And
well, real Keith Engle, stand up. Keith, you always say you don't want to fire a manager coach in season, and now you're saying, yeah, I would have fired him too.
I wouldn't have fired. I did say at the end of that, I would not have fired him in the middle of the season. I would have let him play it out. Because what's the point? This team is either going to rebound or they're not. And whether James Franklin's there this year isn't going to matter. I would have fired him at the end of the season. But, and again, this is going to be a not sought after job. They're going to get a bigger name in there. They're going to be chasing the Matt Rules, the Kurt Signettis, and the Matt Rule might.
Matt Rule is going to leave Nebraska. I can't see it.
Matt Rule's got big ties to Penn State and the area, so he also made his bones at Temple.
He goes from Baylor to the Panthers to Nebraska to Penn State. He becomes the Larry Brown of football coach.
He would be getting there, yes, and he's got Nebraska playing good football this year, so. But Franklin unfortunately had to go. This thing got out of control. I would have let him play out the string this year. Again,
the problem is you let them play out the string, and then they win their last 5 games, and they owe them all that money, and then they would. Maybe we'll come back with them because we still owe them all that money. We have all this
playoff no matter what after that loss.
You know what it is? If it wasn't Northwestern, if he lost to one of the college powerhouses, maybe he would have been given a pass. I think they were so darn embarrassed, Penn State, to lose to Northwestern. When they looked at their schedule, even coming off a bad loss the week before, they thought to themselves, well, this is a win. We'll win this game. And they were probably looking ahead.
Well, they're looking ahead because they're going to lose at least 2 more games. They're playing Ohio State and Indiana this year, and they're losing both those games. And Drew Lar's out for the year, which he was playing horribly anyway. Everybody gets on Arch Manning, by the way, who played pretty good football and beating Oklahoma on Saturday. But nobody gets on these third-year starters like Cade Klubnik and Drew Lar, who stink. who absolutely stink, and they're the reasons. A big reason why their teams and their coaches are under fire. But nobody's getting on those guys. But listen, Franklin, it's a big story. 12 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien did a good job after the whole mess with Jerry Sandusky and all that crap. That program was, in the dust, basically. Bill O'Brien helped get it started. And James Franklin, God bless him, early on did a great job there. Here's the thing. I'm not sure that Penn State should have the same aspirations year after year. Penn State fans should have the same aspirations as Ohio State fans and Michigan fans. They're not. They're a great program. But I don't think it's Michigan, Oklahoma, Alabama. I don't think it's that type of program where they have the right to say we deserve a national championship every year.
It's easy to say now, but they had aspirations of a national championship at the beginning of this year. The fan base at Penn State thought they had a shot at it this year. There was a lot of optimism that Franklin could finally start winning big games.
Yeah, and the next one he wins will be elsewhere, somewhere else. He's done a good job.
To get a job elsewhere, realistically, it's easy to say yes, but a big-time college program, you think he gets a job?
I do. Again, he wasn't a total disaster. He won 10 games a year. He won 10 games at Vanderbilt, for crying out loud. And he had a really good run at Vanderbilt. Do I think he needs to go someplace like a Vanderbilt that doesn't expect to, win a national championship every other year? And there's jobs out there right now that he will probably be considered for. And if he wants a job next year, I think he'll have one. And I'm not saying he's a horrible coach. He's a horrible coach at Penn State against top teams. That's all. He won 10 games almost every year of his career, but he's got to go. I don't blame the school for firing him.
But that's what we talked about early in the show. Sometimes it's how you lose, and I'm not talking about moral victories and who you lose to. And again, losing to Northwestern, coming off an awful loss the week before, that stung. That totally embarrassed. The alumni, the administration, the fan base, etc. Yeah,
I think it's 48 million, Carlos, because the number I heard last week was 63, but it came down to 48.
I wouldn't buy him. I owe him 48 million. You're going to work. Let's see you turn it around. He's not that bad a coach despite what's been happening, and I stick with him to the end of the year, and then I take a deep breath and see what I'm going to do.
Rick, Hudson Valley, HVCC is a community college up here that has a football team. Rick wants to hire him for it. But he'll have a Power 4 job if he wants one. If he doesn't want one, $48 million, you're right. He might go home and he might need to decompress for a year or so because he's been under a pressure cooker there for quite a while.
No one talks about, you talk about decompressing. No one talks about Urban Meyer anymore. Isn't Urban Meyer eligible to coach if someone would hire him? And no one has even given him an interview. And you get the feeling he wants back in.
Do you get that feeling? Because I don't. I get the feeling he doesn't. I think he likes TV.
But all his comments he makes, where he's somewhat critical of someone else, kind of not so directly, but I get the feeling he wants back in.
I see with Urban Meyer. I think he'll stay in TV. I think he'll be similar to Mac Brown. Mac Brown was in TV for like 10 years after he left Texas before he went back to North Carolina. I think you're going to see something like that with Urban Meyer. He'll be on Fox for another 6-7 years, and then he's going to go back to, say, I don't know, Utah, at one of his old teams and coach.
Well, I know we're coming to the end, so this will be my last comment. But Nick Saban, when you see him do the broadcast, you get the feeling he's thinking all these guys are beneath him in football knowledge and how I have to endure all this and show patience and be polite to these guys. He's thinking, I know, they don't know nearly the amount I know.
I see very little of that pregame show because I'm a game day guy. But when I do see him, I've always felt Urban Meyer felt that he was the smartest guy in the room. Always thought that. And Danny, you're absolutely right, by the way. Coach Lee's doing a great job at Vanderbilt right now. So he's certainly not going back there. That's for sure. He's going to get mentioned for this job, by the way. And I don't know that they're going to go back to Vanderbilt for their next head coach. Saban's never coaching again. Urban Meyer, maybe. Saban's not coaching again. He absolutely loves what he's doing. So Anyway, great show today, Jack. Make sure you catch Frank tonight on Glove Fist at 7 p.m. Anything you want to preview from that show tonight?
No, basically that's it. We're going to talk about Boots in his past fight and everything coming up, going on in the boxing world. A lot of old school talk with Frank and myself.
And I'll be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. with the College Football Huddle. We'll talk a lot more James Franklin, I'm sure, and we'll talk about the replacements there and also the crazy world of college football because 8 more top 25 teams lost this week. The playoff is just changing every single week. It's going to be a lot of fun these last 6 weeks. So join us then. Guys, have a great Monday. Stay out of the rain. Bye-bye.